we can make some
Is
changes.
this
Well,
do we have to have motions to that?
You should, it's just we can't really take action until your next board meeting in March.
yeah, we can do on adopting the agenda.
Yes, you
though.
can do that, yeah.
But no, we're not taking any votes, any binding votes on anything. We're discussing and getting maybe consensus and things like that.
Well, I move that we adopt it.
Okay, is there a second? All in favor? Okay, the first item that we've got on here is the discussion on the downtown streetscape proposals. Madam Manager, you're going to take us through that, please, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Board. We started this, well, this journey's been going on for decades, but most recently we started looking at this yet again, probably at our October board retreat. And what you have before you are just the three proposals that most of you are familiar with. The most recent one is the Von Melton proposal, where it looks at making Main Street into one lane. The second proposal that you have is your McGill, where it's basically McGill just interested in proposing a streetscape proposal for you. McGill's proposal was $15,200. To back up really quick, Von Melton was broken down to do the study. To do one lane was $11,000. To do phase 2 is $26,200, and to do phase 3 is $35,200. The third one that we have is the JMT parking analysis that was done, I believe, in 2014. And it's a completed study. And to actually start to enact that study, you can find, I believe, I'll tell you the page so you can see the breakdown of cost for everything. You'll be on page 10. The total cost to do your bulb outs, your crosswalks, and the sharrows that they're discussing in this plan would be $172,950. Just wanted to maybe get some discussion from the board. I know that the board had asked administration to try and, at earlier retreats, put together some possible proposals for the downtown streetscape, and just wanted to follow up on the three that have been presented to the board as we're getting ready to approach budget. If there's any that you're interested in, if you want to leave it as is. Like I said, management and administration just wanted to follow back up and get the will of the board.
The 15,200 from McGill, is that just for the study, or?
Just to develop a study.
So that would be, what, 11,000 is what Von Melton is
To do what?
proposing to do a study
Madam Manager, we're not bound to doing one of these studies. We could also try something on our own.
Yes, sir, you're by no means bound at all.
Well, the gentleman from Von Melton, I believe, said that they could use the information from the existing study, didn't they? Didn't he say there was no reason to do another study as far as he was?
Unless you wanted to look at one lane.
Oh, and
That's the
then that
only
would
difference.
require it.
Yep.
Do we have to do a study to do the one-lane trial? Couldn't we just do it and just
Let me bring
hire
it up.
Lily to sit out and Main Street and count cars and things?
Well, I asked Lily about that. Yes, really, to do a survey of people, go up and down the street and talk to people. Let me bring y'all up to date. Ms. Woodard and I met with 3 engineers from Department of Transportation. And they were I would say, quite okay with trying this, the one lane.
I believe they are willing to assist the town if this is something that the town board, you guys want to pursue. They did have some suggestions as far as one of their concerns was that they're near Motor Company Grill and Harrison Avenue. They would need to be a merge lane so you wouldn't continue to back up traffic. You would actually, right there around midpoint of Motor Company Grill, it would divide into 2 lanes again. So you would have a right turn onto Harrison and then a through, as we normally do now. Their other concern was they thought this might behoove the town to look at it, because they did say that they had, in a 15-minute peak at 5 p.m., there were over like 4,000 cars that had went on Main Street. So they were a little concerned that it may back up traffic. But other than that, I believe they were very supportive, and they said that they would be willing to partner with the town as far as coming up with a plan. They even suggested maybe doing some paint instead of cones through that area, so it didn't affect your parking lanes as much. Mr. Mayor, anything else you want to elaborate?
They told me something I didn't know. They have this tape they can put down and then take it back up after we try it for a week or 10 days, maybe before the tourists get to town. And they can actually simulate what it would be like without a lot of cost of anything. They seem to be, maybe it'll work.
Well, you don't know till you try.
Well, that's
I mean, there might be
what they
things
said,
that,
yeah.
That we think, oh, nobody thought of that, that's awful. But maybe it'll work perfectly, and really, there's no better way to find out. You hate to spend lots of money doing studies, and then you find out that it's not going to work. Another thing, Justin and I were talking today, and he had some ideas that I thought were really good about the streetscaping. And so, maybe in-house we can do things that are as good or better than what some of our consultants have suggested. Like making the sidewalks wider so that on one side you could slope down, instead of having cars, if you parallel park, opening your car out into the concrete steps, grade it down and have a ramp that goes up to the sidewalk. But I thought his ideas were really intriguing.
Well, one thing about it, there's no shortage of ideas.
Yeah, but I hadn't heard those particular ones.
I talked to him about that the other day. He was doing some measuring, he and Gerald. And nobody can really seem to tell us why on the right-hand side of Main Street going west, there's two levels there.
Yeah.
Why that was ever done that way, nobody seems to know. But that's creating some problems for anything we do.
Yeah,
It's
that's
the way
true.
that's and we don't know what's under there.
And if I may, Mr. Mayor,
Sure,
and all
please.
three of the consultants who have came out and looked at parking have looked at that very issue, and that will be a major issue to have to address and a large undertaking too.
Well, let me ask the board this, would the board support giving a trial before the tourists get back? And let's try the one lane and just see, and then, like I said, I've got Lily here that is working. Let me tell y'all, Lily is working on her senior project, and she's doing it with the town, so that's what Lily is doing, and about 25 or 30 years, we expect to see her on the board, I think.
Another thing, we talked about hiring an engineer, but, I mean, this is the kind of thing an engineer,
Would be very
planner
helpful.
would be able to, really come up with something great, I would think.
That's
So
true.
are we still thinking about hiring an engineer?
We're actually advertising. It's posted now. We're looking to maybe close advertisement around the 1st of April and maybe do some interviews. We've had 3 applicants so far, no, I'm sorry, we had 2 more, 5 total, correct, Mr. Talent?
Yes.
So we're still accepting applications, and it's
Okay.
something already within the existing budget, but I think that's something that the town should still consider. But we're hoping to do interviews, like I said, probably around the middle of April on some of the candidates that we've had.
About trying this, we might know in the first hour, we better rip all this back up, and no, it won't take long to decide if it'll work.
I'd be in favor of the trial run, for sure.
You would?
Absolutely. I mean, like Barbara said, you don't know until you've tried it, and it's not like we have to make any permanent adjustments just to
Right.
see how it's gonna work.
Well, we basically do this for festivals, except
Right.
that we close the whole street, so.
Never caused any huge problem, have it?
Not really, it hasn't. No. Okay. Madam Manager, do you have anything else on the
No, sir.
streetscape?
That's all I had.
Or
Just
what
an update
you
to the
want to
board.
do on that? Okay. Moving right along. The comprehensive improvements plan for the town sidewalks. Madam Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Board, I just kind of wanted something since we've had our bike and pedestrian planning study brought to the board, and it's hopefully going to be up for adoption at our next board meeting. But something in there, and our town planner and I have discussed it, and we do have some existing sidewalks on kind of a rotating plan, but we thought it might behoove the board maybe to start a committee in-house, kind of like we have with water and sewer, which I believe if I looked at the appointments, it'd be Ms. McRae for streets and Mr. McMahon for sidewalks. So what we were thinking, maybe in the next few weeks or the next month, those two committee members, myself, our town planner, and our public works director could maybe meet, finalize some of those sidewalks that we have on our current list, and add the ones that have been brought to the town's attention through the bike and pedestrian plan. And then some of the improvements for the sidewalks we are able to do in-house. We actually just were able to do the one, there was a curb issue out front of Town Hall where it was incorrectly installed many years ago. We were able to actually do some of that work in-house. However, your longer distance projects like the one the town completed on Lakeside, that will take more of a contract to be able to implement that. But your public works crew has been very instrumental in the last couple of months trying to do some in-house projects. But I just thought this might be something, like I said, for those two board members who are on the committee to just sit down with myself, our town planner, Mr. Gibson, and really come up with a concrete plan and see if we need to add any additional sidewalks.
Concrete plan.
Caught it. You like it?
We don't want to use no asphalt. Okay, any comments from anyone about the sidewalk situation?
That idea that was mentioned a time or two about having a dedicated team just for doing sidewalk projects, is that something that the board could pursue trying to work into the next budget, or is that farther down the road than that?
You certainly could. We've actually got, I know Mr. Talent and Mr. Setzer, there's a gentleman from NCDOT who's willing to come up. Travis, I believe it's in two weeks, or maybe a couple weeks, to be able to do some on-site training of how to do in-house sidewalk repair, which our crews are going to attend. But some of that we can do in-house. It would be cost effective to do that.
Definitely.
Others, when you do get into your length issue and your time, you're a little bit better off to try and contract. But no, that's something we're looking at now. It's not an issue at all.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the sidewalk situation? Okay. The Whitmire property, Mr. Collins wanted to discuss that, I believe, and so we'll hold that in abeyance just for a few minutes. The ABC store, likewise. The next is the room occupancy tax. Currently, we get a 3% room occupancy tax. The law would allow the board to go as high as 6%. Right now, before the legislature, the League of Municipalities is petitioning or asking the legislature to loosen some of the things that we can use room occupancy tax for other than just billboards and advertising. The thinking being, we need to be spending some money on the amenities that the tourists find when they come here that make it so attractive. So, this is something I'd like to throw out. I know we can't vote on it tonight, but I'd like to see if there's any input on how the feeling would be. Of course, this would be the Tourist Development Authority. I think would have to weigh in on it, but I think that in the final analysis, the board has the authority to. Didn't we vote, Bill? That's what we voted when we voted the TDA, the room occupancy tax.
We asked the legislature to set an occupancy tax, and then we appointed the TDA. But at this point, I don't know that it doesn't need to come from the TDA rather than the town board.
Well, I think it could come probably from either. I'm not real sure.
Do you mean raising the rate? Is that what you're talking about?
Right now it's 3%, but we can go as high as 6% if.
Wouldn't we have to ask the legislature to?
Yes.
You'd have to go through the legislature,
Yes.
it's not for us.
It's a local bill issue, but it's, other places they're doing it, although, which town was it got shot down the other day? Was it Maggie Valley?
It was Maggie Valley, I was trying to think.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been
Their
a lot of
representative
pushback from
refused
representatives of
to-
the state to increase.
To increase it. But it's something I just wanted to throw out for thought because more and more people now are beginning to look at the saturation of advertising as opposed to using some of those funds for improving the things that people come here to experience.
Yeah, I'm one of those people.
Pardon?
I'm one of those people.
Well, I think we all, well, I am. Yeah. Sure. You look awful puzzled.
No, just thinking.
Okay.
And I apologize, I was writing something down as you first started to speak. You said that currently that money was only used for things like advertising and billboards and things like that.
Well,
I'm sorry?
you're correct, that's all it legally can be used
So
for currently.
why, who made that decision that legally, was that a town board decision or was that a legislative decision? Okay, that's part of it, sorry.
We're basically locked into what money is to be spent for by the legislature.
Mhm.
So it would take a local bill or a state. There is a move to make it a statewide bill to give towns and TDAs more leeway in how they spend the revenues from the occupancy tax.
I don't think I'd want more, a higher tax unless we were able
Unless
to
we could
use it
use
on
it the
more
way we
interesting
wanted,
things than
right.
just.
Yeah.
Well, under this, you could use it for sidewalks, you could use it for street repair, you could,
Well, that would-
beautification projects,
I
those
think
type
it would
of
be an
things.
easier sell. I don't think any of
Right.
Right.
the people wouldn't be very happy with that.
So
What I
we have
think-
more billboards.
Yeah, what we might want to do is to come up with where we might spend that money, put a plan in place, and then look at the TDAs,
Approach the
then
legislature.
approach the legislature.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right. Let's get into, if I may, under the other considerations, the legislative action that the league is undertaking on a number of fronts right now. The latest one that has concerned me tremendously, and I have a handout here, is that it looks like there are going to be bills introduced to require the towns to run on partisan elections, where you will be, we'll have probably primary, general, and all that. And we'll be running from representatives of political parties. And the other one is to make municipal elections on even years when we're going to be competing with the state and federal elections, and we're going to get lost. The town elections will just be pushed aside for these other bigger races. So the legislature is on, the League of Municipalities is on record opposing making municipal elections partisan. I don't know, how do you guys feel about it? You're the board members.
I like nonpartisan, I like the nonpartisan board.
I think all the towns feel that way that are nonpartisan, and I don't understand why some of the legislators want to get into this.
Yeah, I wonder what their thinking is.
What is the reason that they're giving for wanting to do this?
I can give you an opinion.
But what is their
Cost.
reason, their narrative, why?
Well, one reason they're using is that if you run on partisans, people will know what you stand for.
Okay.
And the other is it would be cost effective. Well, right now, the municipal elections are paid by the town that conducts the elections. So it's nothing out of the state's pocket whatsoever. I can't help but feel like it's and they're also wanting to make judges partisan, boards of education. In fact, they're wanting to make almost everything a partisan election now in the state. There would be no nonpartisan race.
Well,
So keep your eye on that. The league is actively fighting this. And a couple of the boards of education out here in the west have already been made partisan. Cherokee County is one of them. There's a partisan race now. So I throw that out. I don't know that there's anything we can do about it tonight, except just be aware of it. And the Fourth Estate needs to make a note of this, because it's going to affect, I think, just about all the towns out here. Highlands is nonpartisan, Franklin's nonpartisan, I think Sylvan's nonpartisan.
And they can require us to change that to the
Yes.
state?
Yes. Towns, or the legislature goes by Dillon rule. And basically, we are a child of the legislature. Anything we do basically has to be approved by the legislature, either through local bills or statewide law. We're sort of, our hands are sort of, in some respects. There are also a couple of annexation bills that have been out there that are keeping towns from doing involuntary annexations. And while we're on to it, Mr. Collins just came in, so we'll go back to those other items in just a minute. You mentioned a couple of the things. The cities and towns are facing an erosion of their authority. And so the League of Municipalities and the towns are acutely aware that this is happening from the legislature, and they're prepared to do battle about it. HB2, I don't know what the future of HB2 is going to be. The league is still lobbying and trying to figure out where it's going to go. It looks like one day it's going to do something, the next day it looks like it's not. So I don't know. There was, and I don't think this affects the town so much, but one of the things that the legislature's done in some court decisions is prevented cities and towns and counties from charging fees when they're hooking up new water customers in order to improve or to expand existing systems. We may not be able to do that. Some people call that impact fees. The occupancy tax, like we talked about, there has been a movement to get a change in the statute to allow some occupancy tax funds to be used for various facilities, including if you wanted to, say, a civic center, something of that nature. Sales tax redistribution, that's reared its head again. How the sales taxes or revenues are going to come back to towns and counties. There may be some compromises sitting out there at this time. Everybody's waiting back to see if the legislature is going to give us some increased funding for infrastructure, water, sewer, stormwater, transportation. Broadband is a big thing right now. See if we can get some infrastructure. And let's see if there's anything else I need to bring up. Oh, another one that the league is on board about is the, well, we've already talked about the municipal elections, partisan, and there are a couple of others. I won't go into a whole lot of them now, but your league is very aware of what is going on in the legislature and standing up for the towns. Anybody got any comments on any of these legislative actions that are out there right now?
This article that you passed out about the town
Right.
elections going partisan. Realistically, is there anything that can be done? I mean, or is this just they're going to do what they're going to do?
No, I think if enough municipalities go to bat and call their representatives and their senators, I think it'll die in committee. It's died in committee before, and I think there's a possibility it could again. I don't know.
You got to try.
We've got to try. And right now, I think that's the biggest thing on the radar that could really affect cities and towns adversely. Any other comments?
would the Republicans benefit from it going to?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, then it'll go.
That's exactly what it is. And before we get on to those items that we skipped, let me mention one thing, a couple of things here. It looks like they're getting awful close to moving the 2 lanes, two-way traffic on the existing new bridge. Have you got an update on that?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor and Board is actually talking to our Public Works Director today. And based on some conversations last week that we've had with DOT, it looks like probably in the next couple of weeks, they will be moving to divert traffic on that bridge. There is an issue right now with some migratory bats that they're watching. So that could play a factor in it, but we'll know more later.
Living under the bridge.
That are getting ready to probably, their nesting should be coming up in the next few weeks. So they're trying to make sure that they don't impact that species, so.
There's a rent-a-cat business. I need to call them to take care of that issue. But I also talked to Chief Adams today about that whole area there, reducing the speed limit to 20. And it's going to work. It's going to work if people show a little courtesy and just slow down. Everybody around here, a lot of people remember when it was two-way traffic on the old bridge. It'll work out.
Yeah, the state's gonna have to do something, because right now I think it's 35 right through there. And
It
if they
is.
turn it, they're gonna have to lower it, thank you.
Okay. And the other thing, and I don't think it applies to Franklin, but there are some very, very stringent bills out there concerning sanctuary cities. That if cities do not cooperate fully in not becoming sanctuary cities, they can lose all forms of revenue. Those bills are out there right there. So that brings us back to Mr. Collins. Whitmire, you're going to talk about the Whitmire property.
Oh, I'm sure we all do.
Oh, yeah, we waited for you, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't mind leading off, but it appears that any impediments are for us to do something with the property or complied with, mainly the house that slipped up. So there's probably no real compelling argument not to keep an eye on it. And so, but it's fully in our control. And we own it. And so I think that the real issue that the board has to consider is, do we sell it and let the purchaser make the call on what it's used for, or do we in some degree and fashion have some control over what we want it to be used for? Is there a third, I mean, is that our options?
We could partner with another.
Well, that would be on the side of having some control over what was actually there. Are there two other, I mean, am I too simplistic in that we try to have some say, or we just try to market it and get the best value for it with the hope that the purchaser would use it for a purpose that turns out to be good? Isn't that kind of where we're at?
What do you think would be the highest and best use of that property? I think that's, we should try to determine that amongst ourselves.
Well, then that would lend ourselves to trying to get some investigation and research as to maybe get Tommy Jenkins involved with economic developer and stuff, who can pull in some resources, if in fact that was where the board was, was wanting to go. I mean, there could be there could be a good argument for slicking it up, maybe knocking down the trees, putting a for sale sign on it, and that take care of itself. But I just think that we need to go ahead and make a decision and start going down that road, because it's not doing any good right now being idle.
Well, having been idle the last few years wasn't so bad since no commercial property was selling,
It kind of, yes.
but things are changing. I think when we look at the best use, we should consider public uses as well as private uses. I really don't have an absolute idea of which is better, but I mean, that's why maybe a study would be good. These would be the benefits of having a public, this is what we could use it as.
Such as,
I don't know, a park, a civic center,
I'll tell you, I don't think that my mind isn't going towards a park. And if it was a civic center, it would have to be with this is my opinion, talking substantial support from the private, because civic centers, after a couple of years, when they start needing new roofs and start needing new HVACs and stuff, it can turn out to be a very significant investment.
you have to do a business study on it. But another option, maybe far out, but a trade, is there, some other piece of property that would be better for some purpose and somebody would like to trade us? I think there's a lot of things that we possibly could consider.
So, maybe count me mistaken, but at some time in the last year, I heard that the county has some level of interest in that property as well. I know I've heard that either through third party, which could easily be at my bar, could be here. I mean,
Right.
but I know I've heard that. I don't know if
I'm
that's
not,
anything
I'm not
else.
aware of it, but that's not just,
I haven't heard.
But in talking with EDC, I don't think getting involved with EDC and the county is such a bad option. It's a big piece of property. We don't have an idea. Maybe they do. I mean, because I do think that's the issue. I don't think anybody has an idea for it. Not anything feasible that has a return on investment. That just seems to be what anybody's willing to stick their neck out for. So,
I'd like to see, personally, my ideal for that piece would be a mixed commercial and residential with some park elements to it, so that it would be very nice looking and really dress up that whole part of town. That's, if I had, $1 million and I could just say, that's what I would do. But, I don't know what's feasible.
So I guess what I'm hearing is we need to get some direction and get several ideas and sort of act on
And
or
weigh them
try to
against
act
each
I
on
agree with
an
Joe
idea.
that whatever the board decides to do, we should act in one direction, or we should get something moving, even if it's, whether it's putting up for sale, whether it's having a study to see the best use, whatever, we should do something in some direction.
I guess if I was going to approach something like this on my own, I would set some kind of a timeline. And if I couldn't think of something to do within that amount of time, that's probably my answer.
Well, we've had, how many years has it been now, Joe, since we?
It's been too many years, but there's not been a lot of thought
11
on
or 12 years, I think.
Have we?
it. What do you think, Billy?
I'm just listening today.
Can I pass something out? It
You
might
certainly
be
may, yes, ma'am.
I was passing out.
I'm passing out. I think some of you are familiar with this. It came out of the University of North Carolina School of Government. And they were at the big meeting we went to. I didn't bring enough for this time. It's more or less than a
you can share.
This is just an opportunity, this is an agency that was set up by the State School of Government to do just what we're talking about. You hire them under contract, and they do all the types of studies, advising on public-private partnerships and development incentives, and assessment of distressed properties, creation, all of these kinds of things that would come under this. They've done some fantastic work in the state. They have a big website, and you can look and see some of the projects that they have developed. I think one was a parking garage that they did. They've done a lot of historic redevelopment and restoration projects. I don't know what the charge. They have graduate students who work with them. It's just a possibility for getting the kind of answers that we've been talking about. I specifically had this for another project that I want to talk about when we finish with the things on the agenda.
Is there someone who wants to make the argument that best thing we can do is slick it up and put a sign on there?
I would argue against that.
I've heard that, I just want to know if there's, how close we are to any consensus, or if there, I mean, because it could be arguments, made both ways. Because it could be a very good use that would be used by somebody who purchases it at value. We don't know that it's automatically bad just to sell it. But I think whatever it is, it's time to go ahead and start chugging that engine a little bit.
Barbara, this is one of the guys that we heard at the annual conference, was it? It sounds like it.
He was in attendance, I think.
That's
That name
what I'm
looks
thinking,
familiar.
yeah. Well, some of this sounds awful familiar.
Well, they've been doing this for several years, so I don't know, they've probably given presentations. I didn't hear a presentation, I just talked to a lady about it.
Right.
And I described the project, some of the projects we're doing, are hoping to do around the Niquosi Mound. And she said, oh, this is what you need to do, this was made for that, to help you get financing.
And they will send students out as part of their learning to do the groundwork.
Graduate students.
Well, how would the board feel about us contacting these folks?
We could find out, I mean, they could probably come and do a presentation, we could find out how much it would cost. And they could maybe look at some of these things we're talking about and, say, yes, we could help you with this, or not.
And now would be the time if the board is interested in, telling staff we could reach out, get some cost, also reach out to our local EDC and kind of get something in line as we start the budget for this year.
Would there be any rational reason that we continue to allow the cane and the trees between the road and the property? It would open it up to such an extent without that. I can't personally imagine a use for it that would say, I wish we'd kept those trees or that cane. But if we are in fact wanting to emphasize its availability, we might want to consider, so when people drive by, they notice it, rather than it's hidden in plain sight.
I think that's an alien invasive bamboo, so we might be able to get some help getting rid of it. And on the other hand, it is great robin habitat. We once saw 60,000 robins come out of that one morning.
You counted everyone.
And somebody else did, I
Okay.
didn't. I can't count that out. But, getting rid of it would probably be environmentally good, actually.
Well, if it's okay, the manager and or myself, if we contact Mr. Lemansky and say, have we got a project for you? And Barbara, would you work with us on that? Let's work on that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the alien species.
None whatsoever, because the cost of this would be negligible. And we've got all the contact information here. Do you want to contact that person?
I'll be glad to take care of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
how about you?
Ms.
two?
McGray and I can work together.
That's
Be glad to.
great, thank y'all. All right, Mr. Collins, you're up again, sir, on the EDC store.
I reported earlier that my understanding is that that our store is under a lease until basically a year from this next November. And with what I understand would be an option for 3 more years renewal. I'm assuming, not knowing that it would be on similar terms than what it is now. I understand that it is $8,500 a month or so as rent, and then there is a component of common area maintenance and taxes, and I'm not sure if that's built in. There's a lot I don't know, but I know it's over $100,000 annual basis for the cost of the location. And I would just hope that we would, with working with the ABC board, while we have time, see whether or not there are better options that we may be able to utilize whenever it comes a year from November. It could be finding space in another location that's kind of ready to go. I know that a similar shopping center, I think, is at $10 a square foot, and I've been advised by our manager that 5,000 square feet is optimal. That we're at 6,500 now because it was available and it was there. So we're paying well over the $10 a square foot number, plus we're paying for at least 1,500 square feet that we admittedly, do not need. It could be that we find a location and be able to build where after a number of years, and if it's rounded off to $100,000, you can amortize quite a substantial building in 6 or 8 years. And the town is the effective residual beneficiary of whatever monies is earned that's not having to be spent. And so, it inures back basically dollar for dollar to the town. Could be this, that with the notice out that we're looking at, maybe that the current landlord is willing to sit down and look at, I personally don't think we have anything to lose, and I think we have a whole lot of options which could amount to quite a bit of money. If you're talking over $100,000 a year of expenditure, when what I'm seeing just from a strictly rental basis at $10 a square foot and 5,000 square feet gets me to about $50,000. That in and of itself, if we just compare that, is worth exploring. We've got the time to do it, and it's just I think it would be good management for us to work with the ABC board and see what's out there. I don't see a downside, but I've talked too much.
Does anybody see a downside? Okay, and,
Have you spoken to anybody on the ABC board about?
Yes, and of course, we spoke with Todd, and he said in his, they have the ABC board has some hurt feelings, for lack of a better word, over the way things played out in this last cycle where there was an attempt to put it up at the new Walmart shopping center. And I can tell you, there is not a push on the board to do anything. So we're not going to get a lot of energy, I don't expect, from them, but Todd says he'd sell it out of the back of a semi or whatever, if that's what the town board says, but so to answer your question, yes, I've spoken to Todd, I've spoken to others, but I don't expect it's going to be something that they're going to be real anxious to be on board with.
okay. I don't hear any other downsides, so.
I mean, I guess, how do we go about, what's the best method of approaching, looking into this?
What we could do is, I don't care to reach out to Mr. Mason and the board as well, get their thoughts on it. And then also, we've been working with legal counsel to make sure, kind of what authority we have over the ABC board. And we'll go back and look through some stuff just to make sure it's kosher. But it's certainly an idea worth exploring to get a feel publicly of kind of how that board feels as well.
Okay. Any further questions on that, comments? Madam Manager, that's pretty well
Yeah, I have
covers
something.
everything,
But I have something.
and I was getting ready to say now, it's open to the floor for any other comments.
Okay.
I'm not gonna leave you out.
Arm.
I am ready.
I wonder what your role is here. Good to see you. approximately blue or that?
No, it's a different vitality.
Different vitality, I didn't know that. Not vitalis. No.
This is what Dr. Lassiter talked to me about that day at Barbara. This is what Dr. Lassiter.
Yeah. This is a big deal. Okay, I wanted to fill the board in on what has been happening with the Quasi Initiative, the Mountain Partners Project, all of these various activities regarding the Indian Mound, the what's called the corridor. There's a map here that gives you an idea of what the corridor is. It's a heritage corridor that encompasses a number of important Cherokee and pioneer sites. It's not just Cherokee, it includes local history, and the Cowie School is an important part of it, but the most important part of this whole thing is in the Quasi Mound. This would be the origin of the corridor here in Franklin. And Mainspring adopted this project originally and developed Mountain Partners with representatives from Franklin, Macon County, the Cherokee, various agencies in Cherokee and individuals. They try to keep it non-political, so I was there pretty much as a local historian and a citizen rather than as a representative of the town. So as things have developed, a lot has happened. This little piece that I handed out, they didn't have anything left but expensive paper at Mainspring, that's why it's on this paper, but this is a conceptual. Joe, your cousin Zeke,
Zeke?
a
Good.
landscape architect who's been working with Mainspring, developed this conceptual for a short-range master plan of the Niquosi Mound. You see where the river is to orient you. Next to it, all this work that shows parking and a drive lane and sidewalks, that's the Mainspring building. And they bought the Duncan tract next door. That was a brownfields site. That's been all cleaned up. Now it's being landscaped. It's really, really beautiful. And so this whole section here is much improved. Right across the street, bordering the river, is the Kahn property that the DOT bought. And that property, I understand, I haven't talked to the DOT myself, but my understanding is they don't intend to surplus that and sell it when it's finished. They'll let Mainspring, the town, or some worthy entity hold that for public purposes. Next to it, the Simpson tract, Mainspring now owns that and is going to be doing another brownfields cleanup there. It's quite contaminated. The Simpson tract actually included a small piece by the North Main Street. Just a little sliver there. So what this plan shows is a walkway coming along that would be on, this is all public property, comes onto the town property, of course the town owns the mound, so that people, this would be a park-like approach to the mound. This does not include your private property here, the Huskisson tract. We're not trying to scare anybody into taking anybody's property or not. You know, that they want to hold that as private property right now. So this is, now what I wanted to talk to you about tonight is the Dan's Auto Building. Mainspring has a contract on it, and it is a kind of contract that I think you have like 6 months to do due diligence. And it's not Mainspring's intention to own this property eventually. This is the reason the Niquosi Initiative was created. And the Niquosi Initiative is a community development organization, which is a nonprofit, and it has members from, see, I'm on it, it has the board members. Oops, yes, there is also a board member. Tommy Jenkins is on it. Several people from Cherokee, Ben Lassiter with Mainspring, Stacy Guffey. several of the people who've been working on that project. This sheet is our talking points. Whenever you're dealing with property, you don't want to come out and, talk publicly on things, and that's why it's been a little bit awkward, what you can talk about, what you can't talk about, that sort of thing. But since Mainspring does have these contracts now in hand, we can start talking about what we're doing. And this will tell you who is involved. I would like to say, on this map, Tom Hatley did this. He's a consultant who's been working in Mainspring. He developed the figures, and it's amazing the amount of investment that has been made in this corridor over the last, I guess, maybe 10 years, including the Greenway. There's so much invested already. Estimate of $4 million in the Greenway, the land and the development. The mound, I don't know if these figures include the town's contribution of maintenance every year, but a lot of money put into this. This corridor also follows the Trail of Tears, which it's a national trail. It has now accepted the North Carolina route, so we are part of this National Historic Trail, and that's a Park Service thing. So that means there's a lot of money, there's a lot of really great marketing materials and so forth associated with being on that trail. So that a lot of things are coalescing around this location now, including improvement of that part of Franklin, which I think our town planner calls the River Gateway District.
River Gateway.
The River Gateway District. Just in the last few years, a lot of improvements have happened. It's been very, very exciting to me to watch it. Now, the Niquosi Initiative, we are organized. We are now, Maggie Clancy is a consultant working with us. She's applying for nonprofit status. We have formed a corporation, and it is a 501c3. Or we hope we will get that status. And it is a community development organization. So it could own this property. Obviously, we're going to need funding. And we have some people who are really well-versed in grant writing. A lot of, in fact, I was in a meeting today with a grantor with some of them. We're just looking at little grants right now. We want to do first a feasibility study on the Dan's Auto Building and see an economic study, or development study, whatever you want to call it. So we're looking for grant funds for that. It sounds like we have a pretty good chance of getting it. Hopefully, what comes out of that will then help us obtain other grants, because we can show that this is what it's going to be. Retail space, perhaps, space for a museum annex, some Cherokee materials related to this period of history. We want it to be a visitor center, so, right now you can go and look at the mound, but then most people say, oh, that's nice, what does that mean? It would be nice to have a visitor center where you can go in and people can tell you about it and you can see materials and understand it. What we're hoping for is buy-in by the town, the county, the Eastern Band, and Mainspring. And we have a budget, which, it's easy to make up a budget when you don't have anything. And I don't know, she didn't include the budget. Sorry, I do have those figures somewhere, but I don't have them with me. But we have estimated startup costs of $50,000. We're hoping to get that money from the partners, and we're hoping that the town will agree to be a partner in this, because it is such a vital part of revitalizing that part of town. And I think the possibilities of what this could bring to Franklin are incredible, just enormous, because of the national tie-in, the national arts tie-in, and just the interest in history. A lot of the ideas that are being developed. Cowee School is developing a lot of programs and activities that are drawing people, and all of these the sites are. So it just brings that all together and gives people something else to do when they're in the area. If the town could invest $5,000 or $5,000 to $12,500, somewhere in that range, to help get this funded. If all 4 funders come up to the bar and then the money itself is important, but it's just as important to be able to tell potential grantors that these agencies are all behind us, they're all part of it, we're all partners in this project.
You starting to get some things coming together which would make this, there's some opportunities and then there's some desire. Billy will remember this, that Steve Philo, years ago, he's a local attorney, said whenever he was asking somebody to come to Franklin or bring him to Franklin, he'd make a point to take the exit out on the south side of town and come in from there rather than bring them into East Franklin, because it was just so dismal in its look, and that's the first impression. And so if in fact there is this impetus, this inertia, which could lead towards slicking it up, well, I hate to see it go by. And yeah.
I think it's one of the most exciting things I've been associated with. And I think it's going to fly. Everyone who stayed with this project, and there's quite a few of us on the board, and in the meetings regularly every month, and argued all these points over and over. And from everyone's point of view, it's very interesting hearing all the different points of view. And I think we're all on the same page. We're all excited. We're all committed to it. Yes.
Barbara, I've always thought that the greatest asset you have in this whole thing here has really not been brought in play, and that is how the Whitmire property might fit into
Well,
it.
see, that's why we need somebody who can
As a
map and bring all this
as
together.
a living village, as a pioneer village, Margaret Ramsey was on to that one time. We've already got the woods up there and the bamboo.
It's the wrong kind of bamboo, but that's,
Well, it's what they make blowguns out of.
it's not the cane, it's not river cane.
You ain't never seen any of the
That's not
blowguns. But they make good fishing poles.
Well, they do, we
That's
can
right.
start a new industry.
That's,
We've got fish, I saw a man pull a 4-pound smallmouth bass out of the river this morning.
really?
I
Wow. Whereabouts? I'm going to go.
Don't
Where was he? No, I mean, if there was one, there's another there.
He was on the Morris Trace Park, near the new boat put in.
Really? Was he on the dock?
He was
Never
in the
mind,
boat.
that's for another day. But anyhow, really and truly, this is the type of thing that tourists are coming to. They're not coming to the theme parks.
And I think it's important to note that we're starting to get private investment down there, like the new brewery right on the river.
Exactly.
So it's not just, the park. The park's a great idea, but it's also great to have retail that people can go to, or a restaurant. So anyway, that's my story.
Y'all come a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is
Any
wonderful.
questions that I can answer, or any time, or if anybody wants to come into any of our meetings or anything, just let me know.
Thank you, Barbara. Appreciate your bringing this to our attention tonight. I had no idea that it gone this far.
Yeah.
That's great. That's just wonderful. Well, the other consideration and discussion that we have, unless anybody from the Fourth Estate got anything they want to bring up? That's unusual. All right, I guess, Madam Manager, anybody around? Joe, okay.
Give me the executive summary on the discussion about the sidewalk.
Is that an executive?
You can't, whoever wants to start it.
Go ahead.
What we discussed about doing is forming a committee. We have your streets, who was appointed Ms. McGray at, I guess a year, or when we started committee. You have sidewalks of Mr. McMahon. So what we discussed doing is starting an initiative and starting to meet in the next couple weeks where you have myself, your 2 board members, your town planner, and our public works director, and developing a comprehensive improvement plan, incorporating some of the existing sidewalks we have that we know that need to be replaced. Also introducing some sidewalks that were brought to the board through the bike and pedestrian planning grant. We're actually also starting to move in the direction of trying to do some things in-house. One thing we did this past week, there was an issue with a curb out front. We're able to do that in-house. Mr. Talent, myself, and Justin Setzer, he'd found a contact through DOT. They're going to be up here in the next couple weeks, and they're willing to come in free of charge and train some of our crew members of how to pour and do some sidewalk work. So that's something we're going to take advantage of, but we're going to try and start doing more stuff in-house. And we're hoping with that plan, kind of how we meet with water and sewer, we'll start doing that with our sidewalk and streets committee.
Any further comment? All right. Ms. Doster?
We got one thing to bring up. I
Yes,
just
sir.
wanted, I've had a lot of people, there's two things, I apologize. One is more of a question. I'm kind of curious, what has been the town's stance, I don't know honestly, in terms of seeking grants? Is there money out there? Is it worth the time? Is it worth the body? Is it something best taken through a third-party route?
It depends on, a lot of your water and sewer infrastructure grants are there, which the town, we've looked at before through Martin and McGill and some of our studies. Just as though Ms. McRae brought up, I mean, there's certain people we can contact at the school of government. It's really dependent on what you want to use the grant for.
Is there much of it?
That's really my question, is how. what's
It's
the-
limited, to be honest with you, unless it's water and sewer right now.
The CDBG grants are about gone right now. Hopefully they're gonna come back.
What's number 2 you got?
Number two is, just had a lot of people with opinions, or not opinions, I guess questions about picking on the square. I have no particular issue with, but I just wonder if maybe this might not be a good year since it's not taking place yet to try to get some public opinion on possible avenues to expand, improve, modernize aspects of it. I'm not commenting on anyone's aspect of it. It's not.
Were the
I'm not-
gist of the comments interpreted that they didn't want it, or they wanted it?
They'd like to see
better?
more. Most of the comments are in reference to more or different, and of course, there's people there that would tell you the opposite. So that's why I'm saying, less than taking a stance or agreeing with anybody, I just wondered if there's any interest on the board, maybe approaching the public in some capacity, and obviously, they're already there on those Saturday nights. I mean, maybe we can just capture them and capture their ideas and their opinions.
But you're just
pretty easily.
capturing those that come to.
Yeah, that's only part of the battle. You're only capturing those who were there, which you assume they're mildly already satiated with it. So you want to capture those that don't. I've got some opinions on that. I'm just curious whether that's anything anyone on the board's ever thought about, has any interest in, it's something you don't want to forward
We've
this
talked
year.
about it before, I think, having some diversity,
Mhm.
if it has a music maybe.
Don't you think, I mean, Donnie has been the backbone for you, and he's still the backbone. I can't imagine that we can do much more than tweak it. Put Donnie there. And I'm not saying get rid of Donnie, he does a good job, but you know what, Billy, does that kind of make sense?
What if we
I mean, he's not gonna be wanting to come in some wholesale
Yeah.
What if
change.
we
of it.
created another option?
What's
Yeah,
that?
What if we created another option
Such
for
as?
like families? Like family Friday evenings, once a month.
Yeah, which we've discussed that
Which we've
before,
discussed
movies.
that,
Oh,
about
yeah,
using
yeah,
these
yeah.
The
out
movie
here,
nights on the
because we
screen,
have this perfect
Yep.
amphitheater at theater, if we take out those big massive
You're exactly right.
trees.
You're right.
And
You just hit on something.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot.
That's, it's a natural.
it is, and it's totally unused. And then it gets families out. I mean, I think it's very limited as to how many families come out to pick them in the square.
You
Well,
got-
I'm up there, I go about every Saturday night, and you're right, it's mostly old people my age. Yeah.
Free.
I think the spirit of it in itself still does attract, I mean, even people off the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, they
Not
like it.
picking on the square. I mean, I think the spirit of it in general is something you want to maintain, and that's why I don't want to make any blanket statements in regard to it. I mean, it interests the people that interest, and it doesn't the people that it doesn't, and it's just how you bridge that And I think you hit on something too. It's not necessarily about expanding that event too. It may be ideas that don't coordinate with that. There could be other alternatives, other times,
We might be
or
able
other
to get some
locations.
private help with it,
Mhm.
you know, make it donate for each one, what it's gonna cost, and then let them re-advertise up until.
You know, I've got lots of ideas, but they're all pointless without any public buy-in. And I don't think we have any, I don't think this is a discussion I've really heard in the public.
Run those ideas by us. Maybe not tonight.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Bring them on, madam. The one thing I've heard is that some people want more variety in the news. I've heard that. But I'll tell you another thing too. The people that are there, they'll fight you over picking on the school.
Yeah.
It's their
And that's-
life.
And that's why I say,
It really is.
I agree with that variety, but that variety, I think, doesn't have to be in replacing what's on that stage. It can be an expansion of, and also I feel like it's the kind of event that encourages you to sit a chair there and sit still. Does not encourage you to walk from place to place, business to business, door to door, and that's why I don't think retail opens for
We also have 6 nights a week,
Mhm.
gazebo's not being used. We could
Oh,
have
yeah.
concerts on the square, any number of things that could come about.
And just to throw this out there, one thing that, well, Silver, for instance, does, instead of the town bearing the complete burden, Silva, for instance, they rotate their annual music each weekend, where Silva will pay for one weekend, then your Chamber of Commerce pays for one weekend, their county pays for one weekend. That's why they're able to do such a variety over there, is because they have so many different they have buy-ins from different groups.
Yeah, well, what about the Arts Council? They could do
It's another one.
things up there too. There's any number of things. Okay. Any other comments?
Where are we at on our engineer? We getting any much play?
Certainly, we were talking about that when we were talking about streetscape. Where we're at with that process, applications are open. We've received about 5 applications so far. We're going to leave it open to probably around 1st of April, and then we'll start conducting interviews around mid-April. But it is an item we have within our existing budget. Plan to put it in the budget again this upcoming year, but we're making headways. Travis, one thing I didn't touch on earlier, you did send it through the league bulletin as well.
Yes.
So we're trying to get some different recruitment options out there, but making progress. We've got 5 candidates so far.
And let me, I'm going to throw kind of a curve out here. Lily, what are the folks your age saying about what the town is or is not doing? We don't hear much from your,
Well, honestly, I don't think the people my age really grasp the concept of government, besides maybe the General Assembly or the President. I don't really think they know too much about the town board. I've been in politics for a while, and I personally didn't really know too much about the town board until I started here. I mostly knew more about the county commissioners.
what can we do to enhance the understanding and the interest in your age group as a town?
That's a good question.
I should have briefed you on this before.
Well, no, it's fine.
Yes.
No, I'm not putting her on the spot. I just-
No, it's fine. I guess I just don't think the people my age really understand what the town board does. So maybe working with, I guess, the teachers at the school and maybe kind of getting it into our curriculum a little bit more. In civics, we don't really cover town. And with municipalities, we mostly cover federal government and Supreme Court and that kind of stuff. So maybe just coming in. I know when I had civics, we had a thing where we invited Ashley Welch, the district attorney, and that really got people excited, and they were kind of like, okay, she's here, she's present, this is what she does, and it created a familiar face for them. So maybe going to the high school, or I guess going to different things and trying to talk to them. I don't really know what kids my age.
Okay. Well, let me just tell you,
Can I ask you
you're not off the hook yet. We're
Let me
going to be asking more.
Oh, that's fine, go ahead.
Do you think people would understand what we do more if we were called town board members or something like that, rather than aldermen and alderwomen, which no one...
Town board, I mean,
They just don't know what a town board is.
Yeah, I think the first step would be kind of getting them familiar with what the town board does and kind of just the different events that go on in the town. I think that would be a thing. So
Barbara,
I guess that's a good point.
that is something that I am for. I am tired of aldermen being known as old men
Yeah, no, I do like the town board member.
or council
Maybe.
members. What are you laughing about?
I'd never heard of alderman before I came to North
I think
Carolina.
all-
Yeah,
I was like, wait, what?
That's right. What would be the board's feeling of changing it to council members? Or,
I'm gonna get up now.
okay,
Okay, Alderman.
Yeah, that's a big no vote for me.
okay, all right. What's the board's feeling on that? We can't take a vote on it, but would you be adverse to changing from alderman to, alderman is, it's not exactly generic. It's aimed towards men, basically.
Well-
And alderwoman is very awkward.
It is very awkward and it's not correct.
That's exactly right.
So,
What is it?
personally, I would like
Aunt Brandon,
council.
would you go for it?
Sure, it's, to me personally, six of one, half a dozen of the other. But I understand the objection, when we have women on the board, alderman is an awkward term. And like you said, alder, I'm assuming the word is rooted from elders, like town and village elders. I don't know that it is, but it
I never
sounds
thought that.
to me like it might be that, like you said, that it does have the connotation that it's,
Look at
Oh,
the-
I get it.
that it's old men. I mean, and not that there's anything wrong with old men, but that's not the entire board.
I beg your pardon.
Nor not that there's anything wrong with old men.
He's not an alderman anyway, he's the mayor.
I were one.
You were
I
one.
were one. Adam?
I would have absolutely no problem changing it, especially not with the
Ms.
consensus.
Abel?
I'm fine with it either way. If it makes
Okay.
it to where it's easier for people to understand, I'm
That's
good.
my thinking.
I don't
really.
want people to think that I have any issue with it, because I don't care about political correctness. So
Right.
alderman,
Okay.
But I do think
doesn't
it,
bother me.
I think, people ask me, what is that?
Yeah.
I do get asked that all the time. and
It's
they
more
say,
like when you
"It's
go out,
town
and tell
council,"
people what
they
you
go,
do,
"Oh,
and they're
okay."
like, what?
Mr. Collins?
What's that?
Yeah, that's not the highest thing on my.
I know, but it don't
Yeah.
cost anything.
No, it don't.
Well, no, it may.
It will,
It's like,
when
it
money
costs.
is involved, it
Yeah.
costs something.
What would it cost, Madam Manager?
You'd have to redo your ordinance book, and you would have to get legal involved, because it'd be an amendment to your charter, actually.
Oh, sheesh.
No, yeah. I wonder how many towns have aldermen.
Not many.
Silver and College with commissioners,
Yeah,
and town commissioners.
Well, it's,
but that's confusing.
I will come back with, I'll do a little research and find
You're
out
gonna
and
switch
come
it.
back, because I, for one, do not think it's fair to the women that are on this board, that everybody's known as aldermen. I'm sorry, but you go down to the league meetings, I think we're one of the very few towns
It
left.
doesn't bother me.
Doesn't bother me.
But not
Well,
even
there's a lot
council
of them, but
members.
he doesn't want to talk.
Exactly.
It comes from
Definition.
Old English.
More
Yeah, wait a minute,
sensitive.
here we got the definition.
It comes from Old English and it means older man.
Told you. Okay.
There you go.
All right, I appreciate it. Anything else from anybody? Fourth Estate, board members, Tyra,
Nice, sir.
Travis? Okay, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn. All
I'll make that motion.
right, we have a motion to adjourn.
Last in, first out.
Okay. All in favor? Thanks, everybody, appreciate it. Appreciate the Fourth Estate being here too.